This is The Express with Gary Allen, your 360-degree view of the world. Now, here's your host, Gary Allen.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome to this edition of The Express. Gary Allen with you on this beautiful Tuesday evening. At least it's beautiful probably where you are at. I think my guest is on the line. Mark, if you're there, just hang on for a second. If not, we will call you back. Don't worry. It's all up to Skype. At any particular rate, we welcome you. We thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to join us here on The Express. It's been a very, hang on, Mark, hang on. We'll get to you in just a moment, young. The Philly Flash is on the phone. It's been pretty cool. The weather here in Florida stinks to no end. It's been raining like crazy, although we did have a drought for a while. I hope the weather's good wherever you are. It's that time of the year where we are getting into the rainy season in different parts of our country. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the guest in just a minute. He's a dear friend of mine. First, if you want to keep track of what's going on with me, we go to Facebook to Gary Allen, A-L-A-N, YouTube.com, Gary Allen The Express. You can hear this and other shows from the past on there, as well as on Thursday night at 7 p.m., diversitybroadcastnetwork.com, run by our good friend Renee. This program will repeat itself there. ProgressiveVoices.com on their demand channel and app. Tune in. You can catch me. And very, very soon, you'll also be able to hear this program on 24/7 The Sound starting June 17th at 5 a.m. in the morning. You'll hear all my programs there. You can catch that also on TuneIn, Google Play, Apple App Store. I'm not really sure how that goes. Mark will straighten me out on that one in just a couple of minutes. And then, of course, for those of you that are really interested, if you want to tune in on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I'm on 1510WMEL.com, streaming live worldwide. I have a lot of interesting guests on there as well. My guest is a dear friend of mine. He is originally from Youngstown, Ohio, a place when I was going to college in Pittsburgh. I used to go over there and get haircuts. Why I went that far, I don't know, except the girl was very attractive. And in Youngstown, Ohio, if you have an attractive girl, that's why Mark moved at the age of 17 to New York, because he said, I don't really think these girls are really worth me sticking around for. But Mark moved at the age of 17 from Youngstown, Ohio. You can hear him laugh. He's got a great sense of humor. He pursued theater there. He went after things. He was a member of the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, joining the company. He's a writer, a stand-up comedian. He's a storyteller. He has done work for the Armed Forces Entertainment Network, entertaining our troops, the UN troops as well. He has been a contributor to Saturday Night Live weekend updates for a considerable amount of time, and we hope that continues because the mama needs a new pair of shoes. So without further ado, would you please welcome from Ohio to New York to Philadelphia, where he's actually... I don't know if he's a Philly fan or not, but I know his children are, and I love those kids to death. Mark Riccadonna, would you please say hello to the fans and listening in, Philly Flash?
How are you, man? It's so good to hear you.
I'm fine. Hey, I just saw something on the news that caught my eye. I was talking it over with EW before we went on the air. Apparently, they have caught Trump. How do I put this? He's diverted his company's $100,000 that was supposed to go to charity back into his own company.
Only $100,000? Wow. I'm actually very proud of him. I would have thought it was a lot more.
Well, you know, he's got to watch himself now. He's got to watch himself. Hey, as I said, you're originally from Youngstown, Ohio, and if anybody's
everybody is watching him.
Huh? Oh yeah, everybody's got their eyes on him. You know, as far as I'm concerned, for you guys that do the Saturday Night Live thing, whether it's weekend updates or whatever, I mean, he's sort of like Dan Quayle all over again, a gift that just will not stop giving. You know. He really, really is. Anyway,
it's wild when writing for Weekend Update. What they would do is
You're breaking up really bad, Mark.
Are you there?
And Mark, you're breaking up really bad.
Uh-oh.
Why don't
let me call you right back?
All right, call us right back. EW, and I tell you what, Mark, let EW call you back. All right, EW, you go ahead and give him a call. Hey, it happens, folks. It's called live radio. It's what keeps things moving forward. Mark, as I said before, does some contributions to the weekend update situation. Are you there now? I don't think he's there. EW, you're giving it a try. I know you are.
Yeah, we'll keep going. We'll keep trying.
I have no idea.
All right. We'll keep moving forward with this. At any particular rate, Trump is the gift that keeps on giving. And as I said, Mark contributes to a weekend update, and a couple of his things have gotten on the air. He's a remarkable young man. For any of you who,
hey, buddy.
Hey, there you go. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, I think I had a Bluetooth thing and I unplugged it, so maybe we're better.
Okay, all right. I think we're better now. I was just saying how, Trump is that gift that just keeps on giving for you guys, whether you're doing stand-up comedy or you're waiting for weekend update. My personal opinion is I think he's either going to resign or be impeached by the time 2.5 years roll around, because even Jeff Sessions was going to resign today, and Trump didn't seem to care one way or the other about it. It's just absolutely amazing. It is amazing. But enough of that. Let's get to for any of you who've ever been to Youngstown, Ohio, as I was saying, and at the age of 17 years old, and as Mark has told me many times, and please, people in Youngstown, his name is Mark Riccadonna, not Gary Allen. He did leave Youngstown, Ohio for a particular reason. Actually, at 17 years old, as we discussed many times, you and I on the phone, that's a pretty bold move for somebody at 17. Didn't you have any trepidations about it at all?
No, it was really weird. I just I was in high school. I was doing my thing. I was playing sports. I loved it, and then I got hurt. I realized I wasn't going to play sports in college, and my football coach actually talked me into talking about doing acting. So I ended up.
That says something about your athletic prowess when your football coach is telling you go into acting.
Listen, nobody can fake an injury and get out of running better than me.
No, listen. Hey, you haven't seen. You're not in New York long enough, boy. You give us Jews an opportunity, and we'll show you just how athletic we're not. For God's sakes, I mean. The Jewish Hall of Fame for athletes is a very small Hall of Fame. I must tell you, we own the teams more than we do anything else. But seriously, what did you play? What position were you in football?
I was a defensive end, and and I actually played both ways. I was also an offensive tackle, and I loved football so much. I knew there was no chance of going pro, no anything like that. But to me, college was just going to be another excuse to play sports for 4 more years.
Right.
And so I was just trying to extend that high school glory days, And then I got hurt, and I decided, you know what, I'm just going to take a completely different direction. And I auditioned for a bunch of schools, and oddly enough, I got rejected by all of the mediocre ones, and the best school that I auditioned for accepted me.
The American
so that made
Academy.
the decision. Yeah, it made a very easy choice. So
well, what did you have to
as soon as I graduate, I'm out.
Yeah, what did you have to do? And by the way, I've got this is kind of going into line with some of the questions that we'll be talking about tonight. But what did your friends think of that? I mean, you were 17 years old. They were 17, 18 years old. Going to New York. I mean, pats on the back, or just, ooh, do you realize what you're getting yourself into?
I think there was a large group of them that were kind of like, yeah, okay, we'll see you in a year. You'll be back. But I think a majority, and especially like teachers, and I was one of the guys who, even though I was in high school, I got along with the teachers probably as well as I got along with the students.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this on myself, but a lot of people have described me as very eccentric, and outgoing and fun. So I would always do these weird things. Like I would just one day decide every day this week I'm going to wear a suit to school for no reason. I would just wear them. And like then the next week, all of a sudden I was wearing leisure suits. And
wait, leisure suits? Oh my God, you're not that old. You're not that old.
I found them. They're my dad's old closet. We found crazy clothes from when he got back from Vietnam, and we're like, yeah, we're gonna wear those.
I must send you, if I can upload it on the computer, I must send you pictures of me when I got out of the Air Force after Vietnam. With leisure suit and my hair and a mustache. And I don't have a mustache by any stretch of the imagination, but I had one for like 20 something years. But yeah, can you imagine that? Oh God. Oh, leisure suits. The three things I hope never come back are bell-bottom pants, polyester, and leisure suits. Oh, and disco.
Oh, I wore all of them. I wore all of that to school.
Oh, God. Well, then you had to be where were you in your class as far as because we were talking about this last night on the air on my show here locally in Central Florida. Where were you in class? Were you like a class clown, class valedictorian, most likely
Weird
to succeed?
Say, I was the guy who probably wrote for the class clown. I wasn't the one who actually did the funny stuff. I was the one who encouraged other people to do funny stuff.
Oh, we're the instigator.
I was the antagonizer. Yeah, I loved watching other people do stuff.
And then you'd sit back and go, "What a douche." Yeah,
look at this guy.
Look at the idiot. He's making a fool out, and you're going, "Hey, my stuff is going over." There may be
Even like if, there was going to be a fight or something and somebody would say something, I was the guy who would step in and kind of break it up, but then make it probably worse. Cause I was like, Hey, come on, be the bigger man and walk away. Yeah. I wouldn't take that if he said that to me, but I'm a man, so I don't, but I play by different rules, but you should walk away and be the bigger man. And
We're talking to Mark Riccadonna, who is a stand-up comic who really, you tell stories. You're sort of like in the fashion of, and I hate to use this, put you in the same thing with him, but you're sort of like a Bill Cosby without the blue pills.
Yes, I am.
I hope people understand the reference. Yeah, without the blue pills and being sued 20 years later. You're going to be performing June 8th through the 10th. Actually, you're going to be doing interviews. I want to talk to you about this for Knockout TV. How did you get that gig? Hall of Fame introductions for Knockout TV.
Oddly enough, it was through stand-up comedy. I did a comedy show, and the guy who runs Knockout TV, Tim Palsky, he's a really big comedy fan, and he's done stand-up a few times. Him and I just started, talking and just throwing around stories and having a good time. And he started inviting me to these pressers, and I got to meet great legends of boxing, Nicky Ward, Boom Boom Mancini, all these great guys. And I have a production company, and he was currently looking for a cameraman. And I told him, I said, well, I'll bring my crew. And we started working together. And next thing I know, he's inviting me to everything. And then once in a while, he lets me jump in on camera and do some interviewing.
It's funny because I was a ring announcer in South Florida for the Golden Gloves.
I could totally see you being a ring announcer.
Oh, I had so much fun.
Oh my God.
Oh, I had so much fun. And in the red corner, weighing 275 pounds in red trunks with white piping, hails from, wherever. Oh, I had so much fun. And then I did a little bit of it in Vegas, but the Buffer boys have that pretty much locked up. But it's okay. I still love it. So here I am. I'm auditioning for you again, as I always do every time we talk. Mark and I have a couple of projects going, so if it sounds like we're all friends, we are. And I adore.
Yeah, there's way more under the surface.
Yeah,
there's so much good.
Oh yeah, we talk. I don't know. I guess we talk at least every couple of weeks or so, or something.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely. The Phillies keep on losing, and we keep on being bigger friends. So as long as that keeps happening, we're in good shape. On June 17th, you're going to raise money for the Salisbury, Connecticut Fire Department, I guess. 461 Main Street, Salisbury, Connecticut. I know it, Southbury. My family's from Connecticut. June 28th through July 4th, you'll be in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. Now, that was one of the questions I was going to get to later, but I might as well bring it up now. Do your friends now come and see you when you're performing back home?
Yes, and actually, they do come out a lot, and I actually sometimes it's dangerous because then all of a sudden I slip into making them laugh and not caring about everybody else. So I start talking about old teachers. I start talking about old situations from school, and doing impressions of the principal. And I have a group of 20 laughing, but then there's like 120 wondering what the heck I'm talking about.
Well, then you have now succinctly put my comedy career right in place. There'd be 10 people laughing, my relatives, and the rest of the room would be like, "What in the hell is this guy doing?" And there is a danger of that. I mean, seriously, for those of you out there, they're thinking about becoming a comic. There is a danger about going back to where you started, your family, your friends, and playing to them instead of playing to the audience. So sometimes it's a good idea to tell your friends to sit way in the back so you know they're there, but so you don't start playing to them and them alone. July 14th through the 15th, you're going to be a headliner at the Comedy Club. What's this? ComedyClub.com. Where's that going to be? July 14th.
That is in New Hampshire. And that's going to be a lot of fun. It's called Headliners Comedy Club.
Okay.
And actually, since I emailed you, I just found out June 24th and 25th, I'll be in Las Vegas at Bally's Casino, Windows Theater. I am going to be doing crowd warm-up for a TV taping for a German network.
Yeah, Achtung. That's good. Yeah. By the way, Bally's used to be the MGM Hotel.
Yes.
That's the one that burnt. I performed there a few times myself, but I think I performed there twice for convention stuff, a very small convention. They were having a meeting, so they wanted somebody to do a little warm-up in the morning, and it was strictly for computer experts. Now, have you ever done a warm-up for people that even at 8 a.m. they're looking at their computers and paying absolutely no attention to you? You could have your A stuff that would kill in every room in the world, and they're like, yeah, just keep going with the jokes. Keep going with the jokes. Yeah, go. And I think it was
just keep talking and fill the time, and we'll give you a check at the end.
There'll be a nice little check for you, and there were some good-looking women in there too, but they were all computer people. Then July 27th and the 28th, Crackers in Indiana. Of course there will be. And Mike Pence will be opening at Crackers in Indiana. Oh, God. You just shot a pilot, of course, with my buddy Paul Provenza, Rick Overton, who I know very well. Rick and I, of course, were good friends with Robin Williams. And it's called Radio Gods, which we talked about a little bit before, and we're going to get to that a little bit later on. But I want to start – I want to go back. Obviously, since you were writing shtick in high school, show business must have been on your mind at some point or another for you to quickly apply to the American Academy in New York. I don't care what football coach told you, you're done. Hey, listen, I was a guard and a tackle in high school. I guarded the water bucket and tackled anybody that came anywhere near. So when football season was over at my high school, they were, thank God Gary isn't going to be in uniform anymore. They didn't retire my number when I got out of high school. They burnt my number. They got rid of it completely. So there must have been some inkling on your part that show business was kind of the direction you wanted to go in.
Yes. The hardest thing was actually thinking that there was a possibility of how to do it. Because being a little, dude from Ohio who knows nothing, knows nobody, I thought like you just had to be like a famous person's kid. That was the only way you could do it. My dad's an air traffic controller, and oddly enough, my mom's a barber. So I'm going to ask you some dates. while you were going out to Youngstown to get your hair cut, because I might be coming at you for some money.
Oh no, I don't know if your mom was. I don't know if you're. Well, let's see. I'm 64, and this was back. Oh God, I was out of the air about 1970. It was the late 70s.
Okay, so my brother might need to talk to you.
Because I got
brother.
I got out of the University of Miami, and I went up to Pittsburgh to visit a friend. And in a long story, I ended up going to Carnegie Mellon, as you know, majoring in theater. And that's when a bunch of people from Youngstown would go there to get their haircuts, and I used to go tag along. And the girl was cute as all get out, but no, I don't think this was your mom. If it was, I could say, son, how are you?
Yeah, I would have thicker hair.
Yes, you would. You look on the Jewish side, you know what I mean? Which you do now, beard and the whole look. You kind of do look like one of the disciples. But I mean, in high school, you were wearing funny outfits. You were one step out of the norm. You were a step or two ahead of everybody. You were progressive. So obviously
we actually used to shoot home movies that were like legitimate it was the 90s, but we were shooting like 1970s cop films, like Charles Bronson, Al Pacino-esque, Death Wish films, where we ran around the town and would just improvise with people. We'd go into a store and start interviewing people about, some murder that happened. Meanwhile, these people have no idea what's going on. They just know a bunch of teenagers came in with a video camera, and one of them has a painted-on mustache and leisure suit. And people would just play along with us. Like, we'd never really got in trouble for doing this. People were just like, yeah, so he was just here. Like, it was like the weirdest thing. I look back, I watched these videos.
So actually,
I can't believe how...
Yeah. You were already doing show business before you even moved to New York. You were already getting yourself prepared. God said, poof, this is where it's going to happen. When you arrived in New York, now, I don't care how many people you know, and even family that may have lived in New York, which they didn't. But at 17 years old, Mark, that had to be like, exciting on one hand, anxiety. And then like, oh my God, what did I get myself into?
My first day in New York City, I'm watching my mom and dad. I lived right across from the bus station on 40th and 8th. Mm-hmm. So not a good area. And my mom and dad were...
Oh, no.
I lived on the Ford Deuce. I was like the only white dude. And my mom and dad are driving. I can watch them going toward the Lincoln Tunnel. I'm waving them goodbye. I turn around. I decide I'm going to go into Times Square and take a look. And as I'm walking, I turn the corner onto the avenue. And as I turn onto the avenue, about 20 feet in front of me is my cousin from Ohio who lives next door to my mom and dad, who I haven't seen in 15 years.
Oh my God.
Like, how small of a world is this? Like, I turn, I go, Mike, what are you doing here? He goes, I'm here for the fashion show. He owns a clothing store. Mm-hmm. And he goes, what are you doing here? And I turned around and went, I live there. It was like the first person I seen after my mom and dad left was my neighbor.
Oh God! Well, at least you got to New York after they cleaned up 42nd Street and they cleaned Times Square.
I was there right as they were cleaning it up, so I got to see a taste of what old New York was like.
My uncle took me when I was when that was all still in its heyday. Took me to a live sex show, and folks.
Oh my God.
Wherever you live, if you had adult bookstores in and around your city, wherever, usually they're on the outskirts of the city or whatever, right in the middle of Manhattan was the largest adult bookstore chains. I mean, street after street, store after store. And then every once in a while, one of the theaters would have live sex shows going on almost 24/7. And oh my God, were these things seedy? Oh Lord, they were terrible. Oh, they were terrible.
when I was working at Stand Up New York as just a door guy, I needed to get stage time as a comic. And because of Giuliani's new, what was it, 70, was it 70-30? What was for all the porno, there had to be an equal amount of family
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, there had to be restaurants and stuff like that. Yeah.
So, Show World, the biggest of all of the porno theaters, hired me to run a comedy show in one of the sex rooms. So so I was doing stand-up comedy in one of the little theaters that they used to have sex shows in. And I remember we would get good crowds. Like, we'd get decent crowds, and I would be on stage just like, do you guys understand what this room was built for? I'm standing on this stage, probably the only performer to be clothed.
Did you get guys? Did you ever get guys wandering in there looking that this was still a sex show
Hey,
going on?
this show sucks.
Yeah.
Where's the woman?
Not in this theater, buddy. I'm telling you that. Oh, God, that's a skit within itself, except I don't think you could put it on TV. Well, yeah, you could.
Oh,
Good.
the worst, and I'm not saying this to be gross, but I swear to God, it was even one of the bits when I'd walk on stage, I put the mic down by my shoes and walk, and you'd hear,
Yeah.
like, oh my God, we are in ground zero. Like,
Oh God, it was awful. It was awful. But they did finally straighten it up. I haven't been to New York in a good many years, but I know that they straightened it up, definitely. And here, where I live in Central Florida, there is no adult section. Well, there are a few places here and there, but this is the Disney capital of the world. You know, this is where Mickey Mouse hangs out. So
I'm actually going to be down your way July 2nd to the 8th. I'm going to be staying at the reunion with my family. We're going to do a little vacation.
Oh, well, then I got to come over. Yeah.
Exactly. We're going to have to get together and hang.
Oh, yeah. On the 8th, I've got to do a bit. I'm emceeing an event here in town for an award ceremony. But, yeah, I can definitely drive over, and we'll definitely get together. And then me being over here on the beach side, you might want to bring your family to a beach for a change, or something.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about your first time on stage, because part of the reason I have you on is to talk to young people out there who are thinking about becoming comedians or writers or something. And it's not easy. I mean, again, I have a comedic background somewhat, or I think I'm somewhat funny. But what was the first time for you under the spotlight? It had to be like deers in the headlight of a truck.
Here's what's crazy about it. So I started working at a comedy club because I got out of acting school. I was doing voiceover work. I was doing, I actually did really well as a voiceover artist when Adam Sandler was the trend. I was getting a lot of commercials, and it was great. And then I realized I need to get a job because this money's going to dry up quick. Yeah. So I started working at a comedy club because I was interested in stand-up comedy, but I had no idea how it worked. So I started working. They hired me to be a waiter, and by the end of the night, I was the worst waiter they've ever had. And they didn't want to fire me, though, because they liked me and they could tell I wanted to work and I wanted to be good. But the problem was people would sit down, I'd sit and talk to them, I'd take their orders, and it's like, you can't do that during a comedy show. I was just a horrible waiter. So they switched me to bartender. I was a horrible bartender. Then they switched me to I answered the phones. I did every job you could possibly do. I used to hump ice up and down the steps.
Oh,
I
God.
would sit at the desk, seat people. I would do the announcements. I'd do everything you could do just to be around it. And I started hanging out with the comedians after the shows. And they all liked me. You know, they all loved hanging around, and we had a great time. And they all were kind of saying, like, you should give it a shot. You should give it a shot. And I was trying to act like I didn't want to. Like, I was trying to act like, no, man, that's not for me. I don't. Meanwhile, I had like a notebook full of stuff I was ready to do.
Who were the guys? Who were the comics that were giving you the most encouragement? The people that we know today?
the guy who did the most, who was the best to me, was a guy named Kevin Downey Jr. He's a really great comic, and he was always so encouraging to me. And but the guys who, after I started doing it, who kind of took me under their wing, was Jim Gaffigan. He got me some work. Greg Giraldo, who, rest in peace. He was such a great comedian. But the thing was, there were two little cheat things that I didn't know was going on. One is I worked at a comedy club, so I knew all the comics, so I wasn't a threat. So when I walked into a club, everybody was happy to see me because I was Mark, their buddy.
Right.
And so whenever I walked into a different club other than Stand Up New York, all the comics treated me with a ton of respect. So the other club owners all said, "Oh, he must be good. All these comics know him and love him." And then the other thing is I had a car. And if you're a comedian with a car in New York City, you will work no matter what you do.
Yeah. How long did it take you? Yeah. How long did it take you to put together a good, tight to 20-minute set?
Oh, man. That's comedian math is the worst, because you think you have 10 minutes the first time you go on. You realize out of all that 10, you only have 3. So now you have 3 minutes. Now you have to turn that 3 into 5. And then once you have 5, you go to 7. But then you realize you're going to cut out a couple more things. You're back to 5. And then you go to 7. And then you go to 6. And then you go to 10. And then you go to 8. And then you go to 12. And then you go to 10.
Yeah.
It takes like a good, I'm going to say it took about 2 years to have a solid feature set, like a half hour. It probably, it was really hard. The first half hour probably takes longer than anything. I would actually say the first half hour to have a really good set that you could go out and make money with. I would say about 4 to 5 years to just get paid.
Yeah. We're talking to Mark Riccadonna, who's not only a comedian, but a writer, producer. He's a contributor to Saturday Night Live Weekend Updates. They're on hiatus at the moment. He's also a dear friend to me and a good friend to me, and we collaborate on a few things over the years, and we will continue to do so. What is going on in comedy? Oh, by the way, did your acting at the American Academy and everything you did before, even back in Ohio, also helped you when you were on stage? Because the number one thing, even at first, because Chris DiPetta told me this about some of the comics that he's represented over the years. Some of them get on stage and their stuff stinks at first, but they have a stage presence. You've always had a stage presence, Mark, right?
That is a huge advantage that I had, and I still to this day believe this. I'm not that good of a comedian, but when I go on stage, I think the audience likes me and relates to me enough that I can get away with a mediocre joke that, because of the familiarity that they feel with me, that I feel like if I didn't have that, some of my stuff wouldn't work. I think if I had Chris Rock's material with my personality and my stage presence, I would be the biggest star on the planet.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, God gave me a likability, but didn't give me a brain to write that kind of material.
And you just brought up a very interesting point. Writing is extremely important, and I know that when it came to Greg Giraldo, that was one of his problems, I'm told, throughout the industry, was he really wasn't a great writer. And back in the day, if you weren't, it was okay. Other comics would write for you. You'd throw them $10 for a joke here, $10 for a joke there. I know Rodney used to pay, I think it was $20 for a joke from different people. But you've got to, at the beginning, be your own writer. And if you're not a very good writer and you have a no sense of humor, you may deliver something well, but if it isn't written well and the front, the setup and the hit doesn't combine, it doesn't work.
Yeah, when I first started, I wanted to be Stephen Wright. Like, I wanted to be this like crazy
No,
out there.
You got a personality,
like,
though.
Well, that was the problem. I was delivering jokes that weren't as good as Stephen Wright. And an older comic saw me and goes, "What are you doing?" And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Why are you doing this like monotone thing? I can see in your eyes you want to like explore things." And I was like, He goes, "Are you an actor?" I go, "Yeah." And then he goes, "Well, then get on stage and act. Like, what are you doing?" So then I started doing all kinds of stuff with trying to get take a bit and see how long I can go with it, acting it out, and doing all kinds of things like that. And
you know what? The best thing that ever helped me on stage was my training at the Groundlings.
Oh my God, improv actors are amazing when they get into stand-up because they will go all over the place. They'll talk to somebody in the front row and then 45 minutes go by and they didn't touch any of their material because they just go on these crazy brain rants that are so amazing.
Oh, yeah. It was the greatest joy I ever had was watching Robin work or Billy Crystal work or Rick Overton. Rick can go.
Rick is.
And he'll tell you, too.
That guy works on a different brain level than 99% of the people out there.
And he'll tell you that, too, by the way. And Rick will tell you that. By the way, for those of you that are not Rick Overton, if you ever get to watch Mrs. Doubtfire towards the end of the movie when they're in the restaurant, when Mrs. Doubtfire is unmasked, pardon the expression, Rick is the host at the host stand when they come into the restaurant. You've also seen him all over the place. Rich Scheidner also is pretty cool. Yeah, Glenn Hirsch was always cool to me. But my advice that I got, and that's my next one to you, was, find who you are. Whoever you are, that's who you are on stage. And I did impressions and stuff. But when I was at
you would seem to me to see you coming up as a comedian. Like, I would think it would be so awesome to watch because you're an improviser. You can just go off the cuff. But then you have a million impressions and characters in your back pocket.
Yeah,
I would kill to have talent like that.
Well,
kill somebody to have that talent.
Well, it's yours for an anominable fee.
I am the guy who can do 1,000 voices, but they all sound kind of alike.
Yeah, that's the thing when you're doing impersonations. You got to sound a little bit different. What's going on out there as you're traveling around the comedy circuit, and we'll finish this up as far as what's the advice you give people out there before we get to the comedy circuit stuff? What's the advice you give a young comic who's listening or someone who's a little bit older as to what to do? I know the advice I give is just find a comedy club, go there, and keep working.
Exactly. Just get on stage as much as possible and don't listen to other people. Keep your eyes on your own paper. One of my best friends in this business who he started when he turned 50 is when he started to do stand-up. And he ended up becoming Richard Lewis's opening act. Everybody told him he should quit. He's too old. Old people won't do well and stand up at the nightclubs. He was a regular at every club in New York City. He was Richard Lewis's opening act. Robert Klein started taking him out on the road. And he was one of the most loved comics in the New York City circuit. And he just passed away a couple months ago, completely freak on vacation in Mexico, had a heart attack. His name's Mike Jacobs. He was the best. And everyone told him, just stop. You're too old to do it. And he accomplished more than anybody I knew. Like, he was amazing. And it's, I mean, the thing is do take in all the advice anybody gives you, especially if there's somebody who runs a club. You should listen to them because you want to work in their club, but also have that second personality of being true to yourself.
Yeah.
But I don't like when people are too true to themselves. Like, I work clean, so I get booked for a lot of weird gigs, but they pay well. And then my friends go, "Hey, I want to go on that gig." And I go, "Okay, but you have to work clean." You know, it's like, a 70 and over group, retirement group that hired me for. That's why they're paying a lot. They want to clean. And they're like, I'm not going to clean it up for these people. This is what I do. And I go, well, then you don't work with me. Like,
yeah, I mean,
I'm being hired because it's clean.
The best advice I ever saw anybody give anybody, and Jay Leno gave this advice to everybody that I know, was if you're clean, you're going to work everywhere. If you're not, you're not.
Yeah, it's so true. And I mean, there are a million great examples of dirty comedians who do really well, but there's also a million dirty comedians that don't work.
Yeah,
and if that's who you are, stay true to you, but like, don't get mad because some people won't book you.
Yeah, and growing up, as you know, with my story, with my uncle being a comedian on Miami Beach forever and a day, he's the one that said, "Play your age. Don't use my material. I'm 30 years older than you. Don't use my stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff that's you." That talks about you. Now, I'm not Caliendo as far as impersonations go. That guy floors me every time I turn around, but I did okay. I could always fall back into something. I love Caliendo when he's not doing so well with an impression, and if you see him live, and he usually does very well, but if he has a little trouble, something isn't going over, he goes right back into his John Madden. He goes right in
that ace in your back pocket, man. You gotta have it.
Mine was always Ronald Reagan when Reagan was alive. I could go into that, man. That just like that. As you're traveling around from comedy club to comedy club, what's working today and what isn't working? Obviously, Donald Trump jokes are working. Anything to do with the political?
Actually, here's the thing that's crazy. In comedy clubs, I avoid politics at all costs. It's never been so hostile in comedy clubs than it is right now. I have a friend out of Las Vegas, and he does a Trump joke that has nothing to do with politics. It was a joke before he even ran for politics. Mm-hmm. It was about his Celebrity Apprentice show or whatever. And he just says the word Trump, and you can feel the air get sucked out of the room. And you can feel people clenching their fists, and you can feel people like looking around like, uh-oh. Comedy clubs are now not as cool as they used to be. It is politically correct. It is watch what you're doing, and if somebody doesn't agree with you, they do not care if what you said is funny. They care that you don't believe the same thing as them, and it's never been this bad. We're talking to Mark
Riccadonna, comedian, actor, producer, contributor to Saturday Night Live, as well as just a great gentleman, father and husband. A friend of mine was just working in Chris DePetta's comedy club in Atlanta, and he told me, he said, "Yeah, it's getting real PC now." Who's your friend out in Vegas?
His name's Derek. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot his last name.
Good friend. He's a good friend, Mark.
Yeah, Derek from Vegas. He does the Irish comedy tour. He is so funny. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know a couple of comics out there too that work the rooms out there. That's the other thing too. When, except for New York, Chicago, and LA, if you are a local comic, you are generally treated like El Crapo in a lot of these places. Here in Orlando, I know the local guys get nothing, and it's always the out of town. I'll tell you one thing that I don't like is a dirty female comic.
Yeah, that's a tough. When they're good, they're really good, but there is a lot of bad ones.
Yeah, and it's not just females. You're dirty and you're over the top dirty. I'm walking out of the room. It's like watching Amateur Night in Dixie to me. It's just, there's no need for it. If you're going to be a good comic and a smart comic, you work with your brains. You don't need to use filth to get anywhere. Now, Amy Schumer, I'll accept that from, because I like looking at Amy Schumer even with the weight on.
Yeah, I love that she's so good to her friends.
Yes.
All of her friends are in all of her projects. She was one of the people who you always hear when somebody rises, they bring everybody with them. and that was her. She brought everybody up a level, and I really respect that. I wish I was in her little posse. Like her group is just, they're all fantastic.
Did you see what
they all moved up together.
Did you see what she did? She was out jogging one day. I don't know whether it was in New York or Los Angeles or someplace. She was jogging, and she needed to go to the bathroom bad, and she went into a mattress store and asked the girl if she could use the restroom, and the girl said, yeah, just go on down there and use it. Do you know that she bought that girl a $2,000 mattress?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's like the greatest thing ever. That's Elvis stuff.
I mean, that's
and you get a Cadillac, and you're going home in a Cadillac.
Yeah, Oprah Winfrey, you get a car, but you forget to tell people you got to pay for the tax on the car. All right, so political humor is kind of off bounds. I know that you work with a lot of family stuff and observation humor. What else is popular now? Are impersonators still kind of on the fence? They either are or they're not. It depends on
It's
the
one
quality.
of those things. I think it's right now. There's a weird thing going on in comedy that if you're really good at something, you got to kind of hide it. Like, so if you do really good impressions, you should do them so you can show off your talent, but you got to hide it. Like it's almost an accident that you're that good at it.
Right.
Like the old school impersonators who used to do the bits where it's like, all right, imagine if this guy was doing this, and they would do it. Like, I feel like it's people, the audiences, the millennial crowd or whatever you want to call it, I feel like doesn't want to know they're being shown an act. They want to think that it was an accident that this person was that good. It's
really?
Like it's really ridiculous that it's like you have to hide the talent. And like, these comics that are really great writers, and they have to hide their jokes and not present them. They have to try to make it very casual and very conversational and break out a joke here and there. And it's kind of it's a different world. I've been doing it about 15 years, and the last 4 years has been possibly the weirdest of all of them. I think it's harder now than it was when I started.
Really?
Yeah. And
is it because of the PC?
Yeah, and it's you do a joke about whatever. You can do a joke about anything, and somebody will be offended by it, or have to, after the show, tell you their reason why they did not like that joke. And it's like, hey man, I was up there for an hour. That 2.5 minutes really held on to it this long. You have to talk to me after the show about it.
Oh yeah,
I really didn't appreciate you did this, and it's like, I did great for an hour. You're gonna find out one joke.
And then I used to love when I was off stage and I was sitting in the front room at the Improv back in the day. Now I'm sure the room has changed a little bit, but the comics would either be sitting at the bar or we'd be somewhere in the front restaurant area, maybe sitting at Leno's table and getting his approval or some helping on some jokes. And there's always be somebody come, hey, I got a joke for you. Hey, you want to hear this joke? There's a guy that calls our radio station all the time, and he's a really nice guy. And he said, hey, Gary, do you want to hear a joke? No. I'm sorry. I really don't. On the premise of what you see out there for young comics that's starting out, what's some of the most common mistakes that you see them make that they keep repeating, and that's what gets them in trouble as far as moving forward with their careers?
I feel like it's there's a thing because of right now. There's a popularity of this roast battle, and everybody's like comedy's gotten very angry and mean, and I think the roasts and stuff like that only seem to work if they're friends. I'm seeing a lot of people, especially on social media, bashing comedians. And just bashing them. And it's like, you get most of your work through word of mouth. I mean, the whole, we talked before, I think on the last show, the whole thing about how I got a chance to write on Weekend Update was because a comedian seen me, liked my stuff, and then asked me and a group of other guys, hey, would you be interested in submitting jokes? And it's, it's one of those things well, what if I bashed that guy? What if I was on social media bashing Michael Che, and then he asked me to do it, and then he found out about it? Like, that's an opportunity gone. Like, you have to start treating, I think, as a comic, you have to, this business is hard enough, and I mean, I'm talking all of entertainment, let alone being a comedian. It's hard enough. Like, we should treat each other at least with respect.
Yeah. I always used to say too, we have to jump through enough hoops. Why aren't we always killing each other? It's sort of like, I know back in the day, if a comic I'll give you an illustration. The first time that Letterman and Seinfeld and Carol Leifer saw Robin Williams on stage at the comic strip in a Comedy Store in L.A., they all went, "Uh-oh, we're in trouble." We're in trouble. There's a genius up there.
Changing.
Oh, yeah. And it is, boy. I'll tell you, I used to introduce him, and he'd come on stage at the Improv, and I'd be up there with him, and we'd do some stuff back and forth for a couple of minutes. And then you'd see this look that would come over his eyes, and you knew, okay, Gary, it's time for you to become wallpaper and let Robin have the stage. And he would go on for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And anybody that was scheduled to go on after him, or Billy Crystal, or any of the great comics, forget it. The room, the energy was gone. The energy's out of here. See you tomorrow. Good night.
It's leaving with them.
Oh yeah. It's just, and they're all like that. But I mean, is there, and actually I've seen, because Robin used to steal jokes. That's another thing too. Are comedians still stealing? I know on the cruise ships, the cruise directors steal all the comics' jokes. But oh God, it's horrible. It really is. Liz Merrill, who is a good friend of mine out of New York, and I know you probably know Liz. She'll give it right back to the crowd. I love how she handles hecklers. Well,
there's another situation that's changed over the years. It used to be if somebody heckled, you went back and forth with them. Usually you would win, or they would do something, and then you move on. I don't know if you just saw that video from, I think it was yesterday, in Philadelphia. There was a lady, and turns out she was a news anchor for Philadelphia Channel 17. And apparently she went back and forth with the comics. They took her out, and she was fighting with everyone. And, they had to call the cops. She was spitting on the cop. And it became a thing. And it's all on video.
Oh, God.
And, I don't know. She's now claiming that she was drugged in the club. Yeah. Something had to have happened. And she doesn't even remember any of this. And it's, it's like this. But it's the heckling game has changed, because now everybody has this, I can say anything I want to you because you're a comedian. But if you say anything back to me, I'm offended. And I'm going to come after you, and I'm, and it's like, no, you decided to come to a live venue. You decided to open your mouth. You decided that this was a good idea. I've been doing this 15 years. I have sharp knives sitting back here ready to throw. And,
oh yeah. I mean, it's my uncle used to pay people to come in to heckle me. And Chris DiPetta used to laugh his butt off every time I used to tell that story. And Leno would look at me and he'd go, Tubby would actually pay people to heckle you? I said, yeah, they heckle me. Because that back in the day, that was the hardest thing to get past, was a heckler out of the crowd. Or the other thing that's really bad, I don't know if they still do this, because I haven't been to comedy clubs in a long time. You don't invite me anymore anyway, Mark, so I don't get to go. But do people ever out of the audience that are just really I mean, their mind is somewhere in Pluto, just decide they now want to be part of the act?
Yes, that happens more than you would think. And the problem is I believe it's because of the reality show thing that has been a phenomenon for such a long time now.
Mm-hmm.
People, we reward bad behavior on television. The person on a reality show who's the bad person, who's the person that, acts the way you shouldn't, is the one who advances, the one who does well, the one who, so these people think that that's what they have to do. And it's really ridiculous. And they think they're like, well, you're a comedian. That's part of the job. And it's like, yeah, you know what? You don't go up to a cop and just start shooting at him and go, hey, you're a cop. That's part of the job. It's
Right.
like, yeah, that's a bad day. It's not always supposed to be that.
Yeah, it's gotten way out of line. We got about a couple of minutes left. I just want to remind everybody
Wait, speaking of Philadelphia, I'll be at the Philadelphia Punchline on July 20th to the 22nd. That just came up 2 days ago.
So will the Phillies. They'll be cheering you on. They certainly aren't on the ball field, that's for sure. You can gather,
that's
folks.
That's the good thing when there's people aren't going to the sporting events in Philadelphia, so come out to the comedy club.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles are bad. The Sixers are bad. The Phillies are bad. And the only thing funny in Philadelphia besides the comics is the fanatic himself. June 8th through the 10th, you're going to be doing some interviews for the Boxing Hall of Fame for Knockout TV. June 17th, raising money for the Salisbury, Connecticut Fire Department in Southbury, Connecticut. You're also going to be June 24th and 25th, excuse me, at Bally's Casino in Las Vegas, which I'm happy to hear about that. And then, of course, you go back to Ohio for the Funny Stop, June 28th through July 1st. He's done some work on television, as I said before. He's worked with some of the greatest people in the world. He also is one of my dearest friends in the whole world. We're working on something really cool now. If we can ever just get together between radio, what I do and what he does, our schedule is unbelievable. Mark Riccadonna is one of my dear friends. Before you go, because we got about 2.5-3 minutes left, where do you see comedy going? I mean, you're talking about how it's PC at the moment. Do you ever see it getting back to the way it was a few years back, 10 years, 15 years ago?
I think there needs to be a breakout. There needs to be a breakout, and it's something that changes what's happening. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I think there's something going on right now. A lot of the industry is going after things that I don't think are necessarily entertaining to the people who are paying to be there, if this makes sense. I think there's a lot of stuff going on that's not, they're too worried about being cool than they are getting people to laugh. Yeah. And I thought the Blue Collar Comedy Tour was going to be the people to do that. They come out and you see how much money they made and how many people love them. Right. And you realize that it was because they're talented and they're professional and they're polished. Right. And that's why people flock to them. Mm-hmm. But it seemed to like fall on deaf ears. Like people think it's a fluke that they got 4 amazing comedians together and the specials were great. And they're going to keep doing this until finally something's got to give and people are going to go back to wanting to see polished, good stand-up comedy.
I hope so. Like I said, there's nothing worse than going into a comedy club and it's dirty. Not the club, but the comics are dirty and filthy. Drop a F-bomb here, F-bomb there just to do it. Sarah Silverman used to be real famous for being so far off the wall. Now that she's doing more writing than anything else, she's kind of coming back. Before you go, we got about 2 minutes to go. I was talking to some people about what it takes to submit things for Saturday Night Live, Weekend Update, or the regular show. Talk real briefly about what that is like to submit something and then at the last second, boom, it's not in the show.
So basically for me, what happens is we get these premise lists that come out. And so you actually have to write jokes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I would say around 100 some jokes in a week, just off of news topics. And this is another thing that's crazy is I'm in the submission department. I'm a contributor. I'm not a staff writer. Staff writers are allowed to do the Trump stuff, the political stuff. Contributing writers get all the other things, all others. So I then hand in my best 5, and Thursday hope that they make it to Friday. Then Friday they have like 2 rounds that they go through jokes. And then Saturday, if I get a joke to the rehearsal, I usually get a phone call from a buddy of mine, and they'll go, "Hey, dude, your joke made it to the rehearsal." then I'll watch the show because I'm like, it might make it.
Yeah.
It usually doesn't.
It's a grind. Mark, I want to thank you so much. We have run out of time. You are the best. I'm going to call you in about 5 minutes as soon as we get off the air.
Definitely.
But go check Mark out June 8th through the 10th. He's going to do some Hall of Fame introductions for Knockout TV. Go to Bally's on June 24th and 25th in Las Vegas. You will see him. Also check him out July 27th, 28th at Crackers in Indiana. Go see Dave Letterman and his fabulous beard. While you're there, you can check me out on Facebook at Gary Allen, youtube.com, Gary Allen The Express. This program will repeat itself Thursday night on diversitybroadcastnetwork.com, progressivevoices.com. Oh, I'm on TuneIn, Google Play app, the local station 1510 WMEL.com, as well as 247.com. Will be premiering my new shows at Saturday mornings at 5 o'clock. Saturdays at 5. Thank God it's recorded. Anyway, Mark, thank you so very, very much. And thank you all out there very much for taking the time to join us here on The Express. Until next time, please take care of yourselves and each other.
You've been listening to The Express with Gary Allen. Join us here every Tuesday night at 10 for more captivating talk with Gary Allen. See you next time on The Express.